Hello everyone. Welcome to Dead Time Stories. I know many of you enjoy listening to these videos as you fall asleep. So before you drift off, I'd love for you to leave a comment letting me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, now let's get comfortable, relax, and dive into tonight's story. The night Erin drove back into her hometown, the rain came down in a thin, needling mist that seemed to blur the edges of every streetlight. She hadn't been back in years, not since she'd left for college and sworn she wouldn't return. Yet here she was, easing her car down the two-lane highway toward the cluster of houses and hollowed-out businesses that still clung to life in Brookhaven. The town looked smaller, somehow. Or maybe it was just emptier. Boarded windows, cracked pavement, weeds sprouting through sidewalks that hadn't seen proper upkeep in a decade. Erin rolled down her window slightly and was met with the damp smell of wet asphalt, tinged with something faintly metallic, almost sour. She frowned and pushed the window back up. Her mother had sounded fragile on the phone 2 nights earlier, her voice wavering with something Erin hadn't heard before. "Just come for a little while," she'd said. "Strange things have been happening. I don't like being in the house alone anymore." The house. Erin pictured it. The creaking Victorian on Ashwood Lane with its peeling green paint and crooked shutters. She had grown up there, memorized every warped floorboard and drafty window, but even then, the house had carried a heaviness. It wasn't haunted, not in the traditional sense, but it had always felt like a place that wanted to be. When Erin finally turned onto Ashwood, her headlights swept across familiar yards, some overgrown, others abandoned. A few had faint porch lights burning, a reminder that some residents still clung to the quiet streets. The house appeared at the end of the block, looming just as she remembered, its wide porch sagging slightly. A single lamp glowed faintly in the upstairs window. Her mother's room. Erin cut the engine. The silence afterward felt unnatural. No hum of cicadas. No rustle of night creatures. Just a heavy stillness pressing in from all sides. She opened the door, gravel crunching beneath her boots, and for a moment thought she saw movement in the yard next door, a pale shape darting just beyond the hedges. She froze, heart ticking faster. Nothing. Just shadows and rain. She shook it off and headed up the steps, her suitcase trailing behind. The front door opened before she could knock. "Erin," her mother said, voice low. She looked thinner, paler than Erin remembered. Her hair, once meticulously kept, hung loose and uncombed. But it was her eyes that stopped Erin. They were wide, restless, and glassy with exhaustion. "You came," her mother whispered, and her relief was almost painful to witness. "Of course I did." Erin stepped inside. The house smelled faintly of dust and something more acrid, like damp wood that had been shut in too long. Shadows pooled in the corners of the entryway despite the lamp burning overhead. Her mother shut the door quickly, almost frantically, and slid the deadbolt into place. "You shouldn't be out there this late," she said. Erin studied her. "Out where?" Her mother's gaze flicked to the window, then back again. "They notice you more at night." Erin felt a prickle crawl across her skin. "Who does?" she asked. Her mother's mouth worked soundlessly for a moment before she said, "The hollow ones." Erin almost laughed, but the look on her mother's face stopped her. There was no trace of humor there, no flicker of mischief. Only stark, unyielding fear. "The hollow ones?" Erin repeated carefully, setting her suitcase down by the stairs. Her mother nodded once, tightly. "Don't say it too loud. They listen." Erin felt a cold knot of unease tighten in her chest. Her mother had always been grounded, practical to the point of stubbornness. Superstitions weren't her language. For her to be talking like this, something had changed. "You've been under a lot of stress," Erin said gently, falling back on her therapist's tone, calm, reassuring. "You're not sleeping well, right?" Her mother's lips thinned. "I see them, Erin. In the yard. In the street. Sometimes even by the windows. They're pale, but not like ghosts. They are wrong. Too thin. Their faces don't make sense. And when I try to look too long, it feels like my mind wants to turn away. Erin rubbed the back of her neck, fighting the urge to dismiss it outright. She wanted to believe this was just stress, paranoia, maybe the early signs of something worse. But there was a tremor in her mother's voice that made Erin uneasy. Have you told anyone else? Erin asked. Her mother shook her head. Nobody would believe me. And the few who know, they keep quiet. You'll see. The neighbors don't go out after dark anymore. Thunder rumbled low in the distance, though the rain had stopped. The house seemed to shift around them, every creak amplified by silence. Erin forced a steady breath. Okay. Look, I'm here now. We'll figure this out. Tomorrow we'll talk more. Get some rest tonight. Her mother gave a short nod, but her eyes flicked once more to the darkened window, as though expecting something to be pressed against the glass. Later, when Erin lay awake in her childhood bedroom, she couldn't shake the unease. The house groaned and settled like it always had, but every sound felt sharpened, intentional. At one point, she swore she heard something brush across the siding outside, light, like fingertips dragging along wood. She told herself it was the trees shifting in the breeze. But when she finally drifted into a shallow sleep, a dream pressed down on her chest like a weight. She was standing in the yard, the moon veiled in clouds. Across the street, figures stood in a row, tall, lean silhouettes, their heads cocked too far to one side. She tried to run, but her legs were leaden. The figures began to move, their steps soundless, their arms dangling like loose ropes. She woke with a strangled gasp, the sheets tangled around her legs. Her heart slammed in her chest. From the hallway, she heard the soft creak of a floorboard. Mom? Erin called softly. No answer. Then, just beneath her window, the faintest scrape of something dragging along the wall. Erin sat frozen in her bed, every nerve in her body taut. The scrape outside the window came again, softer this time, as though whatever made it knew she was listening. She forced herself to move, her breath shallow as she swung her legs over the side of the mattress. The wooden floor was cold under her feet. For a long moment, she just stood there, staring at the thin curtains that hid the window. The pale glow of the streetlight filtered through, but the fabric shifted faintly, as though something brushed against it from outside. Her hand trembled as she reached for the curtain's edge. Then a voice, her mother's, called up the stairs. Erin? She jolted, dropping the curtain instantly. Relief flooded her, though her heart still hammered in her throat. Yeah? She called back, forcing her voice steady. Don't look, her mother said softly, almost a whisper that carried just enough to reach her. Erin froze. The house fell into silence again. She backed away from the window and sat back on the bed, pulling her knees to her chest. For the rest of the night she didn't dare touch the curtains, didn't dare check the yard. Morning came reluctantly, the gray sky casting a weak, watery light over the house. Erin stumbled downstairs to find her mother already at the kitchen table, clutching a mug of coffee. Her eyes were bloodshot, her skin almost sallow. You heard them, didn't you? Her mother asked, without preamble. Erin hesitated. I heard something. Her mother nodded grimly, as if that were confirmation enough. They test you. At first it sounds. Scratches. Shadows. They wait for you to notice. And if you notice too much. She trailed off, her fingers tightening around the mug until her knuckles whitened. Erin tried to steady her own voice. Mom, listen. We're going to handle this logically. First, we'll check around the house. Maybe there's an animal. Her mother's sharp laugh cut her off. It was short, bitter. Animals don't stand in rows in the street at night. Erin swallowed hard. The front door rattled suddenly, as though someone had tried the handle. Both women turned toward it. Erin's pulse surged. Did you lock it? Always, her mother whispered. They stood frozen, watching the door. The rattling stopped. A silence followed, thick and unnatural. Then, through the frosted glass pane of the door, a faint shape leaned close. Too tall, its face a blur, as if the glass itself refused to capture its features. Erin's breath caught. She blinked once, and the shape was gone. Erin's breath came out shaky. She stepped closer to the door, squinting through the glass, but there was only the empty porch and the gray light of morning. The wooden boards creaked faintly as though something had just shifted its weight away. Her mother grabbed her arm. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't open it." "I wasn't going to," Erin said, though her voice cracked in a way that betrayed her nerves. Her mother released her slowly, then rubbed her temples with both hands. "They're getting bolder. They know you're here now." Erin tried to summon reason, clinging to it like a lifeline. "Maybe it was a person. Some drifter, someone passing through." But even as she said it, she knew it was hollow. Brookhaven had no drifters. No one came here anymore unless they had to. They spent the day in uneasy silence. Erin busied herself with small tasks, making tea, cleaning the counters, sweeping the floors, as though pretending everything was normal could anchor her. Her mother moved through the house restlessly, checking locks, pulling curtains tight, pausing too long at the windows. By evening, Erin finally said, "I need air. Just a quick walk around the block." Her mother's face drained of color. "No. Mom, you don't understand." Her mother gripped her wrist hard. "They wait in the quiet places. Once you're outside after dark, you're theirs." Erin hesitated. The fear in her mother's eyes was too raw, too convincing. Against her better judgment, she nodded. "Okay. I'll stay in." That night, as the sky deepened and the house fell still again, Erin lay awake in bed. She tried reading, tried music, but the quiet pressed against her like a physical thing. Just after midnight, she heard it again, the faint scrape along the siding. This time, though, it was followed by a low, deliberate tapping at her window. Tap, tap, tap. Her throat tightened. She pulled the blanket up to her chin, telling herself not to look. Her mother's warning echoed in her mind, "Don't look." But the tapping continued, slow and patient. Tap, tap, tap. Then a whisper, just on the other side of the glass. "Erin." Her name, spoken in a voice that wasn't her mother's. Erin's body went rigid. She clamped a hand over her mouth to keep from gasping aloud. The voice outside was soft, almost melodic, but there was something broken in it, like the syllables had been pulled apart and reassembled by someone who didn't quite understand how human speech worked. "Erin," it crooned again, stretching the name until it bent unnaturally. Her heart pounded so hard she thought the thing outside must hear it. She stayed perfectly still, praying the whisper would fade. But the tapping began again, in time with the name. Tap. Erin. Tap. Erin. Finally, she couldn't bear it. She slid silently from bed, crouched low, and crept toward the hallway. The wooden floor whined beneath her, and instantly the tapping stopped. A silence heavier than before pressed in. Then, slowly, the doorknob to her bedroom turned. Erin stumbled back, terror clawing through her chest. But the door didn't open. The knob twisted once, then released, as though whatever was out there had simply changed its mind. She backed into the hallway and nearly collided with her mother. "Don't make a sound," her mother mouthed, her eyes wild. She took Erin's hand and pulled her down the stairs in the dark, moving as quietly as they could. They ended up in the kitchen, crouched on the cold tile floor. Erin's mother gripped her hands so tightly it hurt. "They call your name when they want to see if you'll answer," she whispered, lips barely moving. "If you do, they'll come inside." Erin felt her stomach lurch. "How do you know that?" Her mother's gaze flicked to the back door, her face pale. "Because your father answered once." The words hung in the air, chilling Erin more than the cold tile beneath her. Her father had disappeared years ago, run off, everyone said. Left them behind without a word. That was the story her mother told the neighbors, the one Erin had come to accept. But now, her mother's expression told a different truth. "They took him," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. "And they'll take you too, if you let them." Erin stared at her mother, her mouth dry. Mom, what are you saying? Dad didn't leave? Her mother shook her head fiercely. He was here, in this house, the night it happened. I woke to the sound of him talking, like he was answering someone outside. When I came down the stairs, the front door was wide open. He was gone. There were footprints in the yard, but they weren't his. Too long. Too narrow. A tremor ran through her mother's hands as she held them close to her chest. I've kept the doors locked ever since. I don't talk back when they whisper. That's why I'm still here. Erin pressed her palms against the cool tile, trying to anchor herself in something tangible. Her rational mind wanted to reject it, chalk it up to grief, to delusion. But the scrape on her window, the voice that mimicked her name, the shape behind the frosted glass, those memories clawed at her reason. Why didn't you ever tell me? She whispered. I thought if you stayed away you'd be safe, her mother said, tears slipping down her cheeks. But they've noticed you now. They always notice the new one. A floorboard creaked upstairs. Both women looked up in unison. The sound was heavy, deliberate, like someone walking. Erin's breath hitched. We're alone, she mouthed. Her mother didn't answer. Another footstep. Then another. Slow, measured, as if whatever it was wanted them to hear. Her mother pulled open a kitchen drawer with shaking fingers, retrieving a heavy flashlight. She pressed it into Erin's hands. Don't turn it on unless you have to, she whispered. They don't like the light. The footsteps grew louder, moving toward the stairs. Erin's body stiffened as the air in the house seemed to change, thicker, heavier, charged with a presence that didn't belong. She and her mother crouched lower, hearts pounding in sync, waiting for the first glimpse of whatever was coming down those stairs. The staircase groaned with weight, one slow step at a time. Erin clutched the flashlight so tightly her knuckles throbbed. Her mother's hand trembled against her sleeve, silently urging her not to move. The sound reached the landing. Erin's breath caught. Through the dim glow of the kitchen nightlight, she could see the faint outlines stretching across the hallway wall. Not her father's. Not anyone she knew. The shadow was wrong. Too tall, its limbs stretched like a marionette's, joints bending slightly where they shouldn't. The head lolled to one side, as if hanging from a broken neck. Erin's stomach lurched. She blinked hard, but the shadow didn't vanish. It only leaned closer to the wall, as though listening. Then silence. The steps stopped. The shadow stilled. Her mother's nails dug into her arm. For a long moment, neither of them breathed. The air felt thick enough to choke on. Then came a whisper, drifting down the stairs. Margaret! Her mother's name. Erin whipped her gaze to her mother, who shook her head violently, tears welling in her eyes. The whisper came again, slower this time. Margaret! Her mother clamped a hand over her mouth to keep from answering. Erin realized with horror that the voice wasn't simply outside anymore. It was inside the house, curling down the stairwell like smoke. The shadows shifted again, stretching, elongating, before receding. The weight lifted from the stairs. Silence returned, heavy and unnatural. Neither of them moved for what felt like hours. When at last Erin dared to whisper, her voice cracked. We can't stay here. Her mother's eyes were glassy. Leaving doesn't help. They follow. Once they've marked you, there's nowhere to run. Erin shook her head, refusing to accept it. There has to be something we can do. Someone who knows more. The neighbors, you said they've seen them too? Her mother closed her eyes. Most don't talk. But Mrs. Calloway, 3 doors down, she lost her grandson. She might tell you more. A faint knock sounded at the front door. Not frantic. Just 3 slow, measured raps. Knock. 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 Her mother stiffened, whispering, Don't move. The knocks reverberated through the house like a heartbeat. Slow. Patient. Erin's skin prickled with cold sweat. She gripped the flashlight tighter, her body tense with the urge to do something. Her mother leaned close, lips brushing Erin's ear. They don't need the door. Knocking is just to see if we'll answer. The thought sent a chill racing down Erin's spine. Another 3 knocks followed, this time softer, as though whoever, or whatever, stood there wanted to remind them it wasn't leaving. Erin forced her breathing steady, whispering, "What happens if you do answer?" Her mother's face tightened. "Then they know you're willing to listen." The house fell silent again, except for the hum of the refrigerator. Erin's knees ached from crouching on the tile. She had the sudden, reckless thought of shining the flashlight straight at the door, just to prove to herself there was nothing there. But before she could move, her mother caught her wrist. "Don't." The hours dragged. Eventually, the gray seep of dawn began to creep through the cracks in the curtains. With daylight came a fragile sense of safety. The knock stopped. The house exhaled. By morning, Erin was exhausted. She brewed coffee with shaking hands, then sat across from her mother at the kitchen table. "We can't keep hiding in here. If Mrs. Calloway knows something, I'll talk to her." Her mother hesitated, then nodded slowly. "But go in daylight. And if you see anything strange, anything at all, you don't acknowledge it." Erin spent most of the morning convincing herself this was the right move. When noon rolled around, she slipped out the front door, blinking against the harsh light. The street was quiet, too quiet for midday. No children playing, no neighbors trimming hedges or sweeping porches. Just shuttered windows and drawn blinds. Mrs. Calloway's house loomed 3 doors down, its paint peeling in long strips, the curtains drawn tight. Erin hesitated on the cracked walkway, then knocked gently. At first, no answer. She knocked again. The curtains twitched. A pale face appeared, etched with wrinkles and suspicion. The door creaked open a crack. "You shouldn't be here," Mrs. Calloway rasped. Her eyes darted up and down the street. "They watch in the daytime too." Erin lowered her voice. "Please, I just need to talk to you. My mom said you might understand." Mrs. Calloway studied her through the narrow crack in the door. Her eyes were sunken, ringed with sleepless shadows, but sharp enough to weigh Erin's intent. Finally, she unlatched the chain and opened the door wider. Inside. "Quick!" Erin slipped through, and the old woman shut the door immediately, throwing the locks with practiced speed. The interior smelled of mothballs and stale air, but it was tidy, as though keeping order inside was her only defense against the chaos outside. Mrs. Calloway gestured toward a stiff armchair. "Sit." Erin obeyed. Her hands fidgeted in her lap. "My mom, she says they took my dad. That they're after me now." The woman's expression darkened. "They've taken many. My grandson, Jacob, he was only 14. Her voice cracked on the number. "He started hearing them first. Taps at the window, whispers through the walls. I told him not to answer. I begged him." Erin leaned forward. "And then?" Mrs. Calloway's gaze unfocused, drifting toward the curtained window. "One night he heard his mother's voice calling from outside. Sweet as ever. He believed it was her, though she'd been dead 3 years. He opened the door." Her hands twisted in her lap. "I found the porch empty. Only his shoes left behind." A shiver ran down Erin's spine. "What are they? What do they want?" The old woman shook her head. "Nobody knows. They've always been here. Before the factories closed, before the town dried up. Maybe they're older than the town itself." She leaned closer, her voice dropping. "But once they've noticed you, there's no undoing it. You can't unring a bell." Erin swallowed hard. "There has to be a way to fight them." Mrs. Calloway gave a mirthless smile. "Fight? You don't fight shadows that wear your father's voice. You survive. If you're lucky." Just then, the house creaked. Both women froze. The sound came from the back door, 3 slow knocks, deliberate and heavy. Knock. 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 Mrs. Calloway's face strained of blood. She clutched Erin's hand with surprising strength. "They followed you here." Erin's pulse spiked. She glanced toward the back of the house, where the knocks had sounded, but the hallway beyond was swallowed in shadow. Mrs. Calloway tightened her grip. "Don't answer. Don't move." They'll test the doors first. As if on cue, the back doorknob rattled lightly. Then again, harder this time, as though the intruder were growing impatient. Aaron's skin crawled. The old woman leaned closer, whispering, "They won't force their way in. Not yet. They want an invitation." Another knock reverberated closer, louder. Then came a voice. "Grandma." Aaron's breath caught. The word was high-pitched, soft, exactly the way a teenage boy might say it. Mrs. Calloway shut her eyes. Tears slipped down her withered cheeks. "Jacob," she mouthed soundlessly. The voice came again, more insistent. "Grandma, it's cold out here. Please." Aaron's stomach twisted. It sounded so real, so painfully human, that for a split second she almost believed it. But when she glanced at Mrs. Calloway, she saw raw torment in the woman's eyes. "That's not him," Aaron whispered. "I know." Her voice was barely audible. "But they know what hurts most." The voice shifted then, deeper, rougher. It spoke her name this time. "Aaron!" The sound chilled her to the bone. Hearing it spoken in Jacob's fading imitation of her own father's tone was unbearable. She clamped her hands over her ears, whispering to herself, "It's not real. It's not real." The knocking stopped. Silence spread through the house like ink in water. For several minutes neither woman dared move. Then, slowly, Mrs. Calloway exhaled and released Aaron's hand. "They're clever," she said, her voice trembling. "The longer you listen, the weaker your will becomes." Aaron's throat was dry. "Then how do we make them stop?" Mrs. Calloway's eyes sharpened with something between fear and resignation. "You don't. But there are places, old places, where the line between here and whatever they are is thinner. I think they gather there." "Where?" The old woman's lips pressed into a thin line. "The woods beyond Ashwood Lane, where the earth sinks and no birds sing. Some call it the hollow ground." The name alone, hollow ground, settled in Aaron's chest like a stone. "What's there?" she asked, though her voice wavered. Mrs. Calloway shook her head slowly. "No one knows for certain. Folks who've gone looking either don't come back, or they come back wrong. Hollowed out. Like they're wearing their own faces, but the soul behind them's been scraped clean." Aaron's skin prickled. "And you think that's where they come from?" The old woman's eyes glistened. "I think it's where they feed. Where they wait. My Jacob, his shoes were pointed that way, when I found them. Like they'd led him there." For a moment, the kitchen clock was the only sound, ticking with dreadful slowness. Aaron's rational mind fought against the heaviness pressing in on her, but she couldn't deny the sharp edge of fear that Mrs. Calloway's words carried. Finally, Aaron whispered, "If that's true, maybe we can find answers there." The old woman's face twisted in horror. "No. Don't even think it. The hollow ground doesn't give answers. It only takes. The best you can do is survive. Keep your head down. Pretend you don't hear them. Pretend you don't see." Aaron clenched her fists. "Pretending hasn't helped my mom. It didn't help my dad." Mrs. Calloway flinched at that, her gaze falling to her lap. "Then you'd better be ready to pay the price, child. Because once you step into that place, you'll never walk out the same." Before Aaron could respond, a floorboard groaned above their heads. Both women looked up at once. Mrs. Calloway's house was one story. The sound came again, heavy, deliberate footsteps pacing across the ceiling where no floor should exist. Aaron's heart slammed against her ribs. The old woman's face strained of color. She pressed a trembling finger to her lips, signaling silence. The footsteps stopped. Then a low voice seeped down through the plaster, warped and wet sounding, like someone speaking underwater. "Found you." The words slithered through the house, vibrating in the walls. Aaron's blood ran cold. Mrs. Calloway clutched the armrest of her chair so hard the wood creaked. Either of them moved. The ceiling above gave another groan, as if unseen weight pressed down on it. Dust sifted through a crack in the plaster, floating down in lazy spirals. Aaron forced herself to whisper, "There's no attic?" Mrs. Calloway's eyes glistened with tears. No. Just roof. The footsteps began again, slow and deliberate, moving from one side of the ceiling to the other. Whatever was up there paced like a predator caged above them. Erin's pulse hammered in her throat. She had the sudden urge to bolt for the door, to run into the open daylight, but she remembered her mother's warning, they follow. The pacing stopped. Silence stretched so long it felt unbearable. Then came the sound of nails, or something sharper, scraping across the ceiling in a long, deliberate drag. Skreek. Mrs. Calloway buried her face in her hands. "They've never come inside like this before," she whispered. The scraping moved toward the wall, traveling down until it reached the window nearest Erin. The curtain bulged inward, just slightly, as though pressed by a face. Erin's breath caught. She could feel it watching, though the fabric mercifully hid the details. Then came her mother's voice, perfectly mimicked, drifting through the window. "Erin, sweetheart. Open up." Her chest clenched. "That's not her," she whispered fiercely to herself. "That's not her." The voice turned harsh, jagged. "Don't ignore me." The curtain shivered once, then fell still. Silence. The weight on the roof shifted, then seemed to vanish, leaving the house groaning in relief. Mrs. Calloway lowered her hands, her face pale and wet with tears. "You see now? You can't fight them. You can only endure." Erin's jaw tightened. "No. If they can pretend to be us, to wear our voices, then there's a way to unmask them. And I'm going to find it." Mrs. Calloway's expression darkened. "Then you're going to the hollow ground." The name lingered in the air like a curse. Erin swallowed hard, but her resolve didn't waver. "If that's where they come from, then that's where the truth is." Mrs. Calloway shook her head violently. "Truth won't save you, child. Truth will hollow you out the same as the rest." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. "Promise me you won't go there. Promise me you'll leave this town instead." Erin's throat tightened. "Leave? You said they follow?" The old woman's shoulders sagged. "Sometimes they linger. Sometimes distance dulls their interest. But you," her sharp eyes pinned Erin, "your new prey. They won't let you go easy." Before Erin could respond, the front door rattled, just a single sharp shake, like a hand gripping the knob hard. Both women snapped their heads toward it. Silence followed. Then, from the other side of the door, a voice spoke again. This time, it wasn't mimicking anyone she knew. It was deep, distorted, scraping like metal dragged over stone. "Come walk with us." The words seemed to reverberate in her bones. Mrs. Calloway let out a broken sob. "Go home, girl. Before it's too late." Erin stood, her hands trembling. I'll come back tomorrow. Please, just hang on." The old woman didn't answer. She only crossed herself and shuffled toward the back of the house, muttering prayers under her breath. Erin unlocked the front door with shaking fingers, waited for silence, then slipped out into the daylight. The street was empty. Too empty. She walked quickly, her eyes darting from shadow to shadow, until her mother's house came into view. Relief swelled in her chest, until she noticed something strange. The upstairs curtain in her old bedroom window was open. Wide open. She froze. She knew she had left it shut. As she stared, a pale face leaned into the frame. Featureless. Smooth. Like a mask made of wax. It cocked its head at her. Then, slowly, the curtain closed again. Erin's stomach twisted. She stood frozen in the street, staring at the now closed curtain. The house loomed in silence, but every instinct screamed that something waited inside. Her mother appeared on the porch a moment later, wringing her hands. Relief washed through Erin, until she noticed the woman wasn't calling to her. She wasn't moving at all, just standing rigid, eyes fixed on the street. "Mom?" Erin called hesitantly. Her mother jerked, as though waking from a trance. "Erin, inside." "Now." Erin hurried up the steps, her eyes flicking back to the upstairs window. "I saw something. In my room." Her mother didn't meet her gaze. "Don't talk about it." Don't give it more of you than it already has. She pulled Aaron inside, locking the door with trembling hands. The house smelled stronger now, mildew, damp wood, something sour underneath. Aaron's nerves buzzed. Mom, we can't just keep hiding. Mrs. Calloway told me about the hollow ground. Her mother's face blanched. You went to her? She knows what's happening. She said it all leads back there. Her mother shook her head violently. No. We don't go near that place. That's where they're strongest. Then what do we do? Aaron snapped, her voice breaking with frustration. Wait here until they take us too? That's not survival, Mom. That's surrender. Her mother's shoulders slumped, but her eyes stayed haunted. You don't understand. I've lived with this for years. I know what they're capable of. And you're already marked. A loud thud shook the house, cutting her off. Both women flinched. The sound came again, heavier this time, from the basement. Thud. Aaron's heart raced. They hadn't been down there yet. The thought that something might already be inside made her skin crawl. Her mother grabbed her wrist. Don't go down there. But the next sound wasn't a thud. It was a voice, rising from the dark below. Aaron. Margaret. Come down. The words slithered up the basement stairs, curling around Aaron's name with grotesque intimacy. Her mother's grip on her wrist tightened until it hurt. Don't answer, she whispered, her voice ragged. Aaron's pulse hammered in her ears. The voice below spoke again, deeper this time, layered, as though more than one throat echoed the words. Come down! The basement door shuddered, not from impact but as if the wood itself wanted to breathe. Aaron stumbled back, clutching the flashlight she'd nearly forgotten she was holding. Her mother shoved her toward the living room. Upstairs. Lock yourself in. Now. I'm not leaving you down here, Aaron hissed. Her mother's eyes blazed with desperate resolve. Go. If it wants someone, let it take me. You're still young. You can't. A sharp crack cut her off as the basement door splintered slightly at the frame. Both women gasped. The voice turned sing-song, almost playful. Margaret. You promised. Her mother's face drained of blood. She backed up slowly, whispering to Aaron. Run. Aaron shook her head violently. No. We stay together. Another crack split the door. The air grew colder, damp with the stench of earth and rot. Aaron flicked on the flashlight, its beam cutting through the gloom. The smell seemed to recoil, though faintly. Her mother's eyes widened. Don't waste it. They hate the light. The basement went silent. Then came a sound unlike any knock or voice before, a scraping, dragging climb, as if something was pulling itself up the stairs on its belly. Aaron raised the flashlight toward the door, every muscle taut, breath caught in her throat. The last sliver of wood on the frame gave way. The door began to inch open. Her mother whispered, trembling, Don't look at its face. The basement door swung wider with a long, aching groan. Cold air spilled out, heavy with the smell of damp soil and something older, something sour and sweet at the same time, like fruit left to rot. Aaron lifted the flashlight, the beam trembling in her hands. It caught the first glimpse of movement, a pale hand curling around the frame. The fingers were too long, too thin, the skin stretched tight like parchment. Her mother clutched her arm. Don't look! But Aaron couldn't tear her eyes away. The hand pulled, slow and deliberate, until a second appeared. Then the shape began to heave itself into view. She snapped the flashlight beam directly at it. The thing recoiled instantly, shrieking in a voice that rattled her bones. It wasn't human, it was layered, distorted, as though a dozen mouths screamed at once. Aaron staggered back, nearly dropping the light. Her mother yanked her toward the stairs. Go! They fled upward, the house shaking with the force of the creature's wail. Behind them, the basement door slammed against the wall. Something heavy thudded onto the kitchen floor, dragging across the linoleum with slow, wet pulls. Aaron reached the top of the stairs and slammed her bedroom door shut. She fumbled with the lock, hands shaking so violently she could barely turn it. Her mother pressed her back against the wood, gasping for breath. Below, the dragging sound continued. Then it stopped. The silence was worse. Erin and her mother clung to each other in the dark room, both listening. Then came the voice again, soft now, coaxing. "Don't hide." It sounded closer than the kitchen. Too close. Erin whipped the flashlight toward the window. The curtain rippled. A shadow leaned against the glass, its head cocked at an impossible angle. Her mother's nails dug into her arm. "Don't look at it. Don't listen." The shadow's mouth opened wide enough to split the face, and in her father's voice, it whispered, "Erin, let me in." Erin's breath came in ragged gasps. The window glass trembled as if the voice itself carried weight. She raised the flashlight, ready to burn the thing away with its beam, but her hand froze. What if, just for a second, she wanted to believe it was her father? Her mother's voice cut sharp and low. "Don't you dare!" The shadow at the window pressed closer, features flattening against the glass like wet clay. Its mouth stretched wider, until the whisper became a hiss. "Open the door!" Erin snapped the beam of light onto the window. The figure convulsed, peeling away from the glass with a scream that reverberated in her bones. The curtain flailed as if caught in a violent wind, then fell still. Silence. Erin dropped into a crouch, the flashlight clutched tight. "It knows him. It knows everything." Her mother collapsed onto the edge of the bed, trembling. "That's what they do. They wear the voices of the ones you love until you don't know what's real anymore." For a long while either spoke. The house settled again, the air thick with damp. Outside, the world seemed unnaturally still, as if even the trees held their breath. Finally, Erin found her voice. "We can't keep running. We can't just keep locking doors and praying. We need to end this." Her mother looked up sharply. "There is no ending it. There has to be." Erin's voice shook, but her conviction held. "If the hollow ground is where they come from, then that's where we'll find answers. Maybe even a way to stop them." Her mother shook her head violently. "You'll only feed them. That's all that place does. Then let it feed on me," Erin whispered, surprising herself with the words. "Better me than both of us." Her mother's eyes filled with anguish. She reached out, gripping Erin's hand hard. "You sound just like him." Erin blinked. "Like Dad?" Her mother's voice broke. "The night before he vanished, he said the same thing." Erin felt the words like a punch to her chest. "He said he'd go to the hollow ground?" Her mother nodded, her hand trembling in Erin's. "He thought if he faced it, he could save us. He walked out that night, swearing he'd come back with answers." Her voice cracked. "All I found was the front door standing open." Erin closed her eyes. For years she'd hated him for leaving. Now, knowing he hadn't simply abandoned them but had been taken, twisted the old wound into something raw and unbearable. Her mother's grip tightened. "Don't make the same mistake." But Erin's resolve only sharpened. "Maybe he was alone. Maybe that's why he never came back. But I won't be." A sound interrupted her, distant, muffled, but unmistakable. 3 knocks. This time, it came from the closet door. Erin and her mother whipped their heads toward it. The thin wooden door rattled softly, as though someone inside was testing the knob. Then came the voice. Low. Familiar. Her father's. "Margaret. Erin. I'm here." Her mother let out a strangled sob. No, that's not him." The closet handle turned. Erin raised the flashlight, beam trembling on the door. "Stay back." The knob twisted harder. The wood creaked. Then, as abruptly as it began, the sound stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Heavy. Waiting. Erin forced herself to speak, though her throat was dry. "Mom. Tomorrow, we're going to the hollow ground. Together. If we don't, this never ends." Her mother's eyes were wide with terror, but after a long, trembling pause, she nodded. The closet remained still, but both women stayed awake the rest of the night, listening, waiting for the next sound that never came. When dawn broke pale and colorless through the curtains, Erin whispered the words that sealed it. "We go today." The morning air was damp and heavy as Erin stepped onto the porch. She gripped the flashlight in one hand, though daylight seemed to wash its power into something almost ordinary. Her mother followed, clutching a worn satchel against her chest as if it contained some unseen shield. Ashwood Lane stretched ahead, the cracked pavement disappearing into the trees. Beyond them lay the woods, and somewhere deeper still, the hollow ground. Her mother hesitated at the edge of the street. "Once we cross, they'll know." Erin glanced at her. "They already do." They walked in silence, the sound of their footsteps swallowed by the strange stillness that clung to the neighborhood. No dogs barked. No birds sang. Even the wind seemed to die the closer they drew to the tree line. The woods rose before them, tall and skeletal, branches clawing the pale sky. The moment they stepped beneath the canopy, Erin felt the shift. The air was colder, thicker, as though it carried weight. Her mother muttered something under her breath, an old prayer, maybe, and Erin didn't interrupt. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. Their footsteps no longer echoed. Instead, the ground seemed to absorb sound. Erin noticed the earth beneath the trees was strange. Patches of soil sunk lower than the rest, as though the ground itself had caved inward. Finally, they reached it. A clearing. Sunlight struggled through the branches, but here the air was darker, oppressive. The soil sagged in the middle, forming a shallow depression littered with bones, animal and human, tangled together in a grotesque nest. Erin's chest tightened. "This is it." Her mother's face went pale. She gripped Erin's arm. "We shouldn't be here." Erin crouched at the edge of the hollow, eyes fixed on the strange arrangement of bones. They weren't scattered randomly. They formed a rough circle, as if something had placed them with intention. Then she heard it, voices, faint but growing clearer, whispering from the hollow. Not one. Not two. Dozens. All murmuring her name. "Erin! Erin!" The sound rose until it was a chorus, echoing from the ground itself. Her mother pulled at her desperately. "It's too late." They'd noticed. The whispers thickened, overlapping until they became a wall of sound. Erin staggered back, clapping her hands over her ears, but the voices were inside her head as much as outside. Her mother grabbed her shoulders. "Don't listen! That's how they pull you under!" Erin forced herself to breathe, to focus on her mother's face, but the voices pressed harder. They weren't just saying her name anymore. They were repeating fragments of her thoughts, memories only she should know. "You hated him for leaving. You wanted to run too. You're just like him." She shook her head violently. "No. Stop!" The circle of bones shifted. A tremor ran through the ground, subtle but undeniable. From the hollow's center, the soil bulged as though something beneath was pushing upward. Her mother dragged her backward. "We have to go." But Erin's legs felt rooted. Some part of her, a dark, treacherous part, longed to see what would emerge. The soil cracked. Pale fingers broke through first, clawing into the air. Then another hand. They gripped the earth, pulling. Her mother screamed. "Don't look!" But Erin did. What hauled itself from the ground was neither man nor beast. Its form shifted as it rose, tall and skeletal one moment, bloated and swollen the next. Its face rippled with borrowed features, flickering between strangers and loved ones. And then, for the briefest second, it wore her father's face. "Erin," it said in his voice. Her chest constricted. Tears stung her eyes. Her mother shook her violently. "It isn't him. Do you hear me? It's never him." The creature tilted its head, as if amused. Then its mouth stretched wide, far too wide, revealing a void that seemed to swallow the weak daylight around them. The voices erupted louder, pouring from that maw like a storm. Erin staggered, nearly dropping the flashlight. Her mother shoved her toward the trees. "Run!" The creature lunged. The thing surged forward, dragging itself out of the hollow with impossible speed. Erin bolted, her mother yanking her arm as they tore through the trees. Branches whipped across her face, roots snagged her boots, But she didn't dare look back. The voices followed. Not echoes, pursuit. They lapped at her ears, louder the faster she ran, each one mimicking someone she loved. Aaron, wait for me. Don't leave us again. You promised. Her lungs burned. The flashlight banged against her thigh as she ran, useless in the bright gray daylight, but she clutched it like a talisman anyway. Behind them, the sound of pursuit shifted. No footsteps, no crashing of branches, only the dragging, slithering pull of something too heavy to walk. Her mother gasped. Don't stop! They burst through the undergrowth into a narrower trail. Aaron risked a glance back. The hollow clearing was gone, swallowed by trees. But something pale flitted between the trunks, always just out of clear view, moving faster than it should. Aaron tripped on a root and went sprawling. The flashlight skidded across the dirt. Before she could scramble to her feet, a pale hand shot from the shadows, seizing her ankle. She screamed. The touch was ice, no emptiness, like being gripped by nothing at all. Her skin shriveled where the fingers touched, as if the life was draining out. Her mother swung the satchel down hard, striking the hand. It recoiled with a hiss, retreating into the shade of the trees. Up! Her mother shouted, dragging Aaron to her feet. They stumbled back onto the cracked pavement of Ashwood Lane. The instant they crossed from dirt to asphalt, the voices cut off. The woods behind them fell silent, as though nothing had ever pursued them. Aaron collapsed onto the curb, clutching her ankle. A bruise was already blooming, the skin mottled gray where the thing had grabbed her. Her mother knelt, pale and shaking. It touched you. Aaron swallowed hard. I think it took something. Her mother pressed trembling fingers against the bruise, pulling back quickly as if burned. The gray mark on Aaron's ankle seemed to pulse faintly, as though something beneath her skin stirred. Aaron's stomach turned. What does it mean? Her mother's voice was hollow. It means you're theirs now. They don't need to drag you all the way under. One touch is enough to start hollowing you out. Aaron's chest tightened. She touched the bruise herself. Cold radiated from it, colder than flesh should ever be. How long? Her mother shook her head. Depends. Some fade quick. Some fight it for years. But no one escapes once they've been marked. The words landed heavy. Aaron forced herself to breathe, though her hands trembled. Then I'll fight it. I'm not just going to lie down and let them take me. Her mother's eyes softened, sorrow mixing with pride. That's what your father said, too. Aaron closed her eyes, anger and grief burning together. Then I'll finish what he started. They walked back to the house in silence, both glancing often at the woods. The air there seemed darker now, as though the trees leaned closer, listening. Inside, Aaron collapsed onto the couch, ankle throbbing. The bruise had spread, thin tendrils of gray creeping along her veins like ink in water. Her mother brought a bowl of hot water and a rag. It won't stop it, but maybe it'll slow it. As she pressed the rag against Aaron's skin, a sound rose faintly from the walls. Not knocking. Not whispers. Laughter. Thin, brittle, like children playing a cruel game. Aaron's blood ran cold. They're already inside. Her mother's hand stilled on her ankle. She looked around the dim room, her face ashen. No, she whispered. They're inside you. The words sank into Aaron like ice. She pulled her leg back instinctively, staring at the gray tendrils threading beneath her skin. No, no, that's not possible. Her mother's expression was carved with grief. I've seen it before. When they touched Jacob, Mrs. Calloway's boy, it started the same way. He laughed for days before he disappeared. Not his laughter, theirs. As if to punctuate her words, a faint giggle fluttered from Aaron's throat. She slapped a hand over her mouth, horrified. It hadn't been voluntary. Mom, she whispered, tears brimming. It's starting. Her mother knelt beside her, gripping her face in trembling hands. Listen to me. You're stronger than he was. You fight it. You don't let them turn your voice into theirs. Aaron nodded shakily, but the cold inside her ankle spread, crawling slowly up her calf. It wasn't just physical. She could feel something pressing against her thoughts, like fingers probing through her memories. Remember when you hated this town? Remember when you wanted to leave her behind? We know everything you never said out loud. She dug her nails into her palms, forcing the voices back. If I can't stop it here, then I need to go back. Her mother recoiled. Back? To the hollow ground. If that's where they feed, maybe it's where they're weakest too. Her mother shook her head violently. No. That place doesn't give back what it takes. Then I'll make it. Erin's voice cracked, but her resolve held. I'd rather face them than let them carve me out piece by piece. Her mother's lips parted as though to argue, but her shoulders slumped. For a long, aching moment, she just stared at Erin, her eyes brimming with tears. Finally, she whispered, Then if you go, I go with you. I won't lose you the way I lost him. Before Erin could reply, the lights flickered. The laughter in the walls swelled, spilling through the room like static. Every window in the house rattled at once. The windows rattled violently, glass shivering as if the whole house were breathing. Erin clutched the arm of the couch, staring as the curtains ballooned inward though no wind stirred. Her mother grabbed the flashlight, flicked it on, and swept its beam across the living room. The laughter recoiled instantly, scattering into hisses that slithered into the walls. For a heartbeat, silence returned. Then a knock reverberated from the front door, one so loud it rattled the frame. Boom! Both women froze. Boom! The sound wasn't like before. It was heavier, hungrier. With each strike, the wood bent inward, threatening to splinter. They're testing it, her mother whispered. They know you're weak. The bruise on Erin's ankle throbbed as if agreeing, the gray tendrils spreading further up her leg. She could feel them now, cold roots sinking deeper, drinking from her willpower. The third blow shook the door so violently that dust cascaded from the ceiling. Erin's body jolted with the impact. Her mother shoved the flashlight into her hands. Stay here. Don't move. What are you doing? Erin hissed. But her mother was already at the door, pressing her palms flat against it, whispering frantic prayers. Her voice cracked but never stopped. The next strike came, and then stopped. The silence afterward was suffocating. Erin dared a step closer. Did it work? Her mother didn't answer. The flashlight beam caught her profile, her lips still moving, but her eyes wide, glassy. Mom? Her mother's head turned too slowly, unnaturally, until her neck strained at the angle. Her lips twisted upward in a smile that wasn't hers. The prayer stopped. And in a voice layered and wrong, she whispered, She's ours now. Erin's blood froze. She staggered back, the flashlight beam shaking wildly. No, you're not her. Her mother's body tilted unnaturally, as if pulled by invisible strings. Her mouth stretched too wide, her teeth bared in a rictus grin. The voice that came out was jagged, layered. Look how easy she breaks. Look how easy you'll break. Erin's chest heaved. The gray creeping up her leg pulsed with each word, as if responding to the thing that wore her mother's face. She raised the flashlight and aimed it straight into her mother's eyes. Get out of her! The beam flared bright. Her mother shrieked, not in her own voice, but in the many-layered howl Erin had heard in the basement. The figure reeled, clutching its face. For an instant, Erin saw two things at once, her real mother, limp and trapped, and the hollow thing coiled around her like a shadow. Erin lunged, grabbing her mother's shoulders. Fight it! It's not you, it's them! Her mother convulsed, choking out words between gasps. Erin, they're inside. Don't let them. The voice cut her off with a guttural laugh, snapping her head back unnaturally. Erin swung the flashlight harder, smashing it against the wall switch. The beam sputtered, flared, then steadied into a burning white glare that filled the room. The shadow peeled away from her mother's body like smoke pulled by a fan. It writhed against the light, screaming in fractured voices before it slipped through the floorboards and vanished. Her mother collapsed into Erin's arms, trembling. Sweat plastered her hair to her face. They almost had me. Erin held her tight, tears burning her eyes. I won't let them take you. But the bruise on her own ankle burned hotter now, the gray tendrils curling higher. The thing inside her wasn't retreating. It was waiting. Her mother cupped her face weakly. "We can't stay here. Tonight they'll come harder. If you're right, the hollow ground is the only chance left." Aaron swallowed hard. "Then that's where we go." They left at dusk. Aaron wrapped her ankle in gauze, though it did nothing to stop the gray tendrils from climbing. Her mother packed the satchel with the flashlight, matches, and a single old rosary whose beads were worn smooth. The street outside was empty, washed in the copper glow of the setting sun. Aaron felt the silence pressing in harder than before, as though the whole town held its breath, waiting for them to cross into the trees again. Her mother gripped her hand. "Once we're there, don't speak unless you have to. Don't answer any voice you hear. No matter what." Aaron nodded. The words sounded like a farewell. They entered the woods together. The air was colder than it had been that morning, the shadows heavier, pooling like liquid between the trees. Every step seemed to echo longer than it should, and Aaron felt eyes on her from all directions. The bruise on her leg throbbed in time with her heartbeat. With each pulse came faint whispers, not from the woods but from inside her skull. "Why fight? You'll never leave here whole. You're already one of us." She gritted her teeth and pressed on. The path narrowed until it vanished, forcing them to weave between trunks. Then, at last, the trees opened into the hollow again. But it wasn't empty this time. Dozens of pale figures stood in the depression, arranged in a loose circle around the bones. Their bodies were tall, stretched, their limbs slack as marionettes with severed strings. Faces blurred in and out of shapes, sometimes strangers, sometimes people Aaron knew, sometimes blank as wax. The sight stole her breath. One figure broke from the circle, rising taller than the rest. Its head lolled at a sickening angle, its arms too long to be human. It opened its mouth, and every voice Aaron had ever known came out at once. "Welcome home." The chorus of voices vibrated through the clearing, rattling Aaron's bones. Her mother clutched her arm, whispering, "Don't answer. Don't let them take your tongue." The circle of pale figures swayed as if caught in an unseen current. Their heads tilted in unison, the motion grotesquely slow. The air thickened, heavy with the stench of wet soil and rot. Aaron raised the flashlight, her hand shaking. She flicked it on, and the beam cut across the clearing. The reaction was immediate. The nearest figures shrieked, their blurred faces warping violently. They staggered back, arms flailing as if burned. But the tall one didn't move. Its face rippled, settling into the perfect likeness of her father. "Aaron," it said in his voice alone this time. Smooth. Familiar. Devastating. "I tried to save you once. You can finish it." Her knees buckled. Tears welled hot in her eyes. "Dad?" Her mother yanked her back. "It's not him!" she shouted, louder than she should have. The figures swayed harder, their attention snapping toward the sound. The tall figure's mouth stretched wider, until its jaw cracked open into a black void. From it spilled the laughter Aaron had heard in the walls, swelling to a deafening roar. Her mother shoved the rosary into Aaron's hand. "Hold it! Don't let go!" Aaron clenched the beads so tightly they dug into her palm. The voices inside her skull screeched, recoiling from the contact. The gray tendrils creeping up her legs slowed, quivering like retreating smoke. The tall one leaned closer, its body bending at an impossible angle. Its mouth gaped wider still, and the laughter cut off. In its place came a whisper so low only Aaron could hear. "Give yourself, and she lives." Her mother gripped her tighter, as if sensing the words. "Don't listen!" Aaron's chest heaved. For a heartbeat, she wanted to believe it. To believe she could end this by surrendering. But then the circle began to close. The figures shuffled forward, their movements jerky, boneless yet steady. Each step pressed into the soil without sound. Their faces flickered between forms, neighbors, childhood friends, strangers, and always her father. Aaron backed away, dragging her mother with her. The rosary burned hot in her hand, the beads digging deep enough to break the skin. She welcomed the pain. It reminded her she was still herself. Her mother hissed, "The light! Aim at the tall one!" Aaron lifted the flashlight and shone it full into its face. The creature didn't recoil. Instead, it leaned further into the beam, letting the light carve into its skinless features. Where its eyes should have been, there were only pits, deep, endless, hungering. The circle drew closer, whispering in dozens of voices that melted into one. "Stay with us. Stay with us. Stay with us." Erin's pulse thundered. "What do you want?" she screamed, unable to hold back. The voices rose in unison, vibrating the ground beneath her feet. "To fill you. To wear you. To hollow you." Her mother shouted over them, desperate. "Don't speak to them. Don't give them anything." But it was too late. The tall one's jaw split wider, the void inside swirling like a storm. From that darkness came a sound. No, not a sound, but a feeling that pulled at Erin's chest, at her very breath, as though the thing was inhaling her soul. The bruise on her leg flared. Gray tendrils shot higher, lacing her thigh, creeping toward her hip. She cried out, nearly falling to her knees. Her mother shoved her, hard. "Run!" But Erin couldn't. The thing's pull locked her in place. She was being dragged forward, step by unwilling step, toward the hollow's center. The rosary slipped from her hand. The moment it hit the soil, every figure froze. The tall one tilted its head, mouth still open. Slowly it bent down, claws reaching for the beads. Erin's body trembled with a single, desperate choice. Erin's instinct screamed at her to snatch the rosary before the thing could touch it. She lunged forward, fighting the invisible pull dragging her toward the hollow. Her fingertips brushed the dirt, scraping it aside until she closed her fist around the beads. The figures shrieked as one, the sound so piercing she thought her eardrums would split. The tall one recoiled sharply, its jaw snapping shut with a crack that echoed like bones splintering. The rosary seared her palm now, burning bright white. The gray tendrils crawling up her leg shrank back, writhing as though scalded. She gasped, clutching it tighter, refusing to let go. Her mother hauled her backward. "Don't stop! Hold on!" The circle faltered, staggering as if the light and the beads forced them to break their formation. Their whispers grew frantic, no longer unified but clashing, voices shouting over each other. "She's ours. Break her open. Take the tongue." "No, the eyes." Erin raised the rosary high, its light cutting into the clearing like a blade. The figures shrank, collapsing inward on themselves like wax near a flame. But the tall one didn't fall back. It straightened, towering higher, its body stretching until its head brushed the treetops. Its voice boomed through the clearing, rattling the ground beneath their feet. "You can burn the edges. But the hollow is endless. You are already inside us." The soil trembled violently. The circle of bones split open, widening into a pit that yawned beneath Erin's feet. The rosary's light wavered as if swallowed by the dark below. Her mother grabbed her wrist, trying to pull her away. "We have to go, now!" But Erin's ankle gave out. The gray tendrils surged, and her leg buckled. She tumbled forward, the rosary slipping from her grip again. This time it didn't hit the dirt. It tumbled into the pit, vanishing into the void. The voices stopped. All at once, every figure turned their blurred faces toward her. And they smiled. The clearing held its breath. Dozens of blurred faces stretched into those sickening smiles, their mouths too wide, their teeth too sharp. Erin's blood turned to ice. Her mother yanked her to her feet, though her marked leg trembled under her weight. "Don't look at them! Move!" But the figures didn't advance. They only grinned, swaying in unison, as if the pit itself had given them what they wanted. The tall one crouched low, its body folding in impossible angles, until its face hovered inches from Erin's. Its skin rippled like liquid, sliding through forms, her father, Jacob, her own reflection. It whispered in a voice that was hers, perfectly matched. "You dropped yourself." Erin's stomach lurched. She shoved back, dragging her mother toward the tree line. The figures didn't stop them. They simply watched, their grins frozen, their eyes hollow pools. The moment they crossed the clearing's edge, the laughter returned. It rose behind them, a cacophony so loud it rattled the branches. "Don't stop," her mother panted, pulling her deeper into the woods. But the path twisted wrong. No matter which way they turned, the clearing seemed to loom again ahead of them. The pit waited, its yawning mouth wider each time. Erin's ankle seared with pain. The gray tendrils had reached her hip now, and she could feel them tugging at her ribs, clawing for her lungs. Her mother shook her shoulders. "Fight it! Keep your head!" Erin gasped, struggling to breathe. The air in the woods was heavy, thick with whispers. Her thoughts blurred, fragments breaking apart. "You're tired. Stop running. It doesn't hurt if you let go. She'll survive if you give yourself." Her knees buckled. Her mother caught her, pulling her against her chest. "Don't listen," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "Don't let them hollow you. Please, Erin, stay with me." The pit's laughter boomed louder, shaking the forest floor. And from inside her head, a new voice answered. "I'm already here." Erin froze. The voice wasn't outside. It wasn't in the trees or the pit. It was inside her chest, echoing beneath her heartbeat. Her breath stuttered. "Mom, I think it's in me." Her mother gripped her tighter, desperation burning in her eyes. "Then fight it. It's not you. It's them trying to wear you down." But the voice purred, curling around Erin's thoughts. "No, it's you. We're only showing you what you've hidden." Memories flashed, nights of resentment, wishing she'd never come back, imagining a life free of this cursed house. The voice twisted them, magnified them, feeding off the guilt. Her mother shook her violently. "Look at me! Stay with me!" Erin focused on her mother's face, the wrinkles of grief, the exhaustion etched in every line, the fierce love that had kept her alive this long. For a moment, it pushed the voice back. But then the trees around them shifted. Roots rose from the soil, curling like fingers. The path behind them sealed, the way forward collapsing into shadow. They were being funneled back toward the pit. The laughter rose again, rattling Erin's teeth. Her mother grabbed the flashlight from the satchel, flicked it on, and thrust it into Erin's hands. "Shine it inside you. Do you understand? If it burns them out of the walls, maybe it burns them out of you too." Erin's hand trembled. The idea felt insane, but there was no other choice. She pressed the blazing beam against her chest. Agony exploded through her. She screamed, falling to her knees as white light seemed to surge under her skin. The gray tendrils writhed, shrieking in her veins, retreating in violent waves. For a moment she thought it was working. The whispers thinned, the weight inside her chest lifted. But then the flashlight flickered. And with the last surge of power, the voice inside her laughed. "You can't burn what you already are." The light died. Darkness swallowed them as the flashlight sputtered out. The forest seemed to lean closer, every tree trunk bending like eavesdroppers straining to hear. Erin fell forward, clutching her chest, gasping as though something inside was clawing to escape. Her mother shook the flashlight desperately, but the bulb stayed dead. "Stay with me," she begged, her voice breaking. "Don't let them take you." The voice inside Erin pulsed with each heartbeat, louder now, filling her skull. "You tried, but you were born hollow. You've always been one of us." She clawed at the dirt, fingernails snapping as she fought to anchor herself. "No, I'm not." The pit's laughter surged again, this time blending with her own voice. For a terrifying moment, she couldn't tell if she was laughing or if it was them. Her mother cupped her face, forcing her to meet her eyes. "Listen to me. You're not hollow. You're my daughter. Do you hear me? Mine." Tears spilled down Erin's cheeks. The words carved through the noise, cutting a brief gap in the voices. The gray tendrils in her veins slowed, quivering like smoke about to be snuffed out. Her mother reached into the satchel and pulled out the rosary. No, another rosary, smaller, tarnished silver. She pressed it into Erin's hand. "Your father's. He left it behind the night he went. I thought it was useless, but maybe." The beads felt cold, heavier than the first. The moment Erin closed her fist around them, the voices screamed in fury, like static ripping through her skull. The tall figure loomed again at the edge of the clearing, head cocked, jaw splitting wide. Its voice thundered, rattling the bones still strewn around the pit. "Give it back!" The rosary burned hot in Erin's palm. She staggered to her feet, swaying but unbroken. "No!" Her own voice rang out, sharp and defiant, and for the first time the circle faltered. Her mother's hand gripped hers tight. "Then finish this, Erin. End what he started." The circle shuddered, their blurred faces twitching as if the word no had struck them like a blow. Their whispers rose in broken, dissonant waves, no longer unified. Erin gripped the tarnished rosary tighter. The heat in the beads spread up her arm, steady and grounding, burning against the gray tendrils still worming through her veins. Each pulse of warmth pushed the cold back a fraction. The tall figure's jaw split wider, revealing the void inside. From it came her father's voice, smooth, calm, aching with familiarity. "Erin, please! You'll only hurt her more. Let us take you, and she'll be free." Her knees buckled at the sound. The ache in her chest grew sharp, the tug of surrender stronger than ever. She wanted, so desperately wanted, to believe. But her mother squeezed her hand. "Don't you listen? That's not him." The tall figure's body rippled, melting until it wore her father's exact shape, his tired eyes, his work-roughened hands, even the scar above his brow from a long-ago accident. Erin gasped. "Dad?" Her mother shook her head furiously. "Look closer! It's wrong!" And she was right. The smile was too wide. The eyes too still. A mask stretched over emptiness. Erin raised the rosary high. "You're not him." The figure convulsed, its form rippling between faces again, shrieking in a chorus of stolen voices. The circle shrank back, swaying violently. Her mother cried out, pointing. The pit in the center of the hollow was widening, swallowing the bones circle piece by piece. The earth shuddered, pulling inward as though the hollow itself was opening its throat. The tall one lurched forward, arms outstretched. "If you won't give yourself, then we'll take you both." The rosary seared Erin's palm. She felt the choice burn through her chest. Run, and be hunted forever. Or stand, and risk being consumed. She planted her feet at the hollow's edge. "Then come and try." The ground shook as if her defiance itself had struck a nerve. The tall figure shrieked, a sound like glass splintering and wood tearing all at once. The circle closed tighter, dozens of pale, swaying bodies pressing inward. Erin lifted the rosary high. The silver beads glowed with searing light, spilling across the hollow. The faceless figures staggered back, their bodies twisting violently as though the radiance peeled away their stolen forms. Her mother cried out, "Hold it steady! Don't let them break you!" The tall one lunged forward. Its arms stretched unnaturally, claws raking the air. The rosary's light flared brighter, clashing with the void inside its mouth. Erin felt the strain tearing at her body, heat coursing through her blood while the cold tendrils inside clawed to take control. For a heartbeat, she thought she would snap in half. Then she heard her father's voice again, but softer this time, not booming, not distorted. Just his voice, the way she remembered it. "I'm sorry, Erin." Her chest seized. For an instant, she almost faltered, almost let the rosary slip. But her mother's voice cut sharp through the noise. "That's not him. That's how they hollowed me out for years. Don't let them hollow you too!" Erin screamed, pouring everything into the grip of her fist. The rosary blazed like molten fire, and a wave of light burst outward from her. The circle shattered. Figures dissolved into ash, evaporating with screams that bent the air. The tall one reeled back, its masked faces melting away until only its true form remained, smooth, eyeless, faceless. A body shaped like a human but empty, stretched skin over nothing. It staggered toward the pit, shrieking as if the light was stripping it apart. The ground convulsed violently, the hollow yawning wider as if eager to swallow its own child. The faceless giant toppled backward, its scream vanishing into the dark maw. The pit sealed shut with a thunderous crack. Silence fell. The woods held still, utterly still. Erin collapsed to her knees, the rosary cooling in her palm. The gray in her veins receded, shrinking back toward her ankle before fading completely. Her mother dropped beside her, clutching her tight. Both of them sobbed in the sudden, impossible quiet. For the first time in years, the woods felt empty. They sat in the hollow until the sun crept low through the trees, its fading light painting the soil gold. Erin's chest heaved with every breath, her body wrung out, but her mind hummed with a strange clarity. Her mother brushed damp hair from her face. "It's over," she whispered, as though afraid speaking louder would wake something again. Erin stared at the sealed ground where the pit had been. "Is it? Or did we just drive them deeper?" Her mother didn't answer. She didn't need to. Both of them knew things like this didn't vanish. They lingered, waiting. Still, the silence of the forest was real. No laughter in the trees, no whispers tugging at her thoughts. For the first time since arriving, Erin felt the absence of the hollow ones, and it was almost worse than their presence. They walked home slowly, each step heavy, as if the woods resisted letting them go. But the path no longer twisted. The clearing didn't reappear. At last, they stepped back onto cracked pavement. The neighborhood was hushed. Windows remained shuttered, porches dark, but the oppressive weight was gone. Even the air smelled cleaner, like rain instead of rot. Her mother exhaled, shoulders sagging. Maybe you did what your father couldn't." Erin clutched the rosary, its beads cool now, almost ordinary. "Or maybe I just bought us time." That night, they didn't barricade the doors. They didn't huddle with the lights on or whisper through the dark. They sat together at the kitchen table, sharing coffee that tasted bitter but alive. When Erin finally drifted to sleep, her dreams were quiet. No pale faces. No scraping at the window. Only the sound of wind through leaves, something she hadn't realized she missed. But in the faintest hours before dawn, she stirred awake. From the living room, where the rosary lay on the mantel, came a single sound. A knock. Soft. Patient. Just once. Erin lay rigid in bed, her breath shallow. The knock was soft, gentle, even, but it cut through the silence like a blade. She waited, every muscle straining, but no second knock came. Her mother stirred in the next room. "Erin?" she called groggily. "I heard it," Erin whispered back. They crept together into the living room. The mantel was bathed in weak moonlight from the window, illuminating the rosary. It sat exactly where Erin had left it, except one bead was missing. Erin's stomach clenched. "Did you?" Her mother shook her head, pale. "No. I haven't touched it." They stood there, staring, as though the beads might shift again under their gaze. The missing one left a tiny gap in the chain, a flaw that hadn't been there before. Erin whispered, "What if throwing it into the pit didn't end it? What if it just tied me to them?" Her mother gripped her hand. "No. You weakened them. I felt it. I know it." But even as she spoke, a faint laugh threaded through the walls. Not the thunderous chorus they'd known, but a single, childish giggle. Erin's skin prickled. The sound faded as quickly as it came, leaving only silence again. Her mother shut her eyes, steadying her breath. "It doesn't matter. You're alive. We're both alive. That's more than I dared hope for." Erin nodded, though uneasy gnawed at her chest. She couldn't shake the image of the missing bead, the gap in the chain. It felt less like victory and more like a warning. She sat on the couch, staring at the rosary until the first rays of dawn spilled across the floorboards. For the first time in years, the sun rising felt like salvation. But as the light touched the rosary, another bead slipped free. It rolled across the mantel, fell to the floor, and spun in a slow circle before stopping at Erin's feet. The house was silent. Then came a whisper, just one, sharp and clear, curling into her ear. "Not finished." The words slithered through Erin's skull, so sharp it felt carved into her thoughts. She bent, trembling, and picked up the loose bead. It was warm in her palm, as if it had been resting on a stove. Her mother stood stiff at the mantel, staring at the fractured rosary. "They're testing us again," she said hoarsely, "pushing to see if we'll give in." "But I saw them fall," Erin whispered. Her voice cracked. "I saw them burn." Her mother shook her head. "Shadows don't burn, Erin. They only retreat. They'll wait, they'll gnaw at the cracks, and when you believe you're safe." She stopped, her throat tightening. Erin clenched the bead so tightly it dug into her skin. "Then we can't stay here. Not in this house. Not in this town." Her mother's eyes widened. "Leave?" "Yes. If the hollow ground is their nest, then Brookhaven is their hunting ground. We take away the stage, maybe they can't play." Her mother's face was unreadable. "And if they follow? Then at least we'll know. At least we won't be waiting for the next knock." Silence stretched between them. Then her mother nodded, slow, resigned. "Tomorrow. We'll pack. Tonight we endure." Erin tried to believe it would be that simple. That night, they slept in the same room, blankets pulled tight, flashlight and rosary between them. For hours, nothing stirred. No whispers, no laughter, no knocks. But sometime after midnight, Erin woke to the sound of beads rolling across the floor. She sat up, heart pounding, and saw them, every bead from the rosary scattered in a neat circle around her bed. Her mother stirred awake, saw the same thing, and covered her mouth to stifle a scream. From beneath the bed came the sound of fingernails scratching slowly along the floorboards. Erin gripped her mother's hand, whispering, "They're not letting us leave." The scratching beneath the bed grew louder, more deliberate, as though claws traced careful patterns into the wood. Erin felt the vibrations through the mattress, each drag rattling her bones. Her mother pressed a shaking finger to her lips, urging silence. They both sat rigid, listening. Then the sound stopped. Erin leaned over the edge of the bed, against every instinct, and aimed the flashlight downward. The beam cut across the floorboards, and froze. A face stared back at her. Not pressed against the wood, but inside it, as though the floor itself had grown flesh. Pale skin stretched tight, lips cracked in a smile too wide. The eyes were black pits, endless, staring straight into her. She recoiled, slamming against the wall. The face in the floor laughed, the sound reverberating up through the bed frame. Her mother seized the flashlight, shoving it harder toward the boards. The light sizzled against the face, burning cracks into its features. It shrieked, warping into smoke that slipped back through the wood. But when the smoke cleared, the floor was no longer wood at all. It was soil. Dark, damp, pulsing like living flesh. Her mother's voice shook. "It's spreading. The hollow's not just in the woods anymore. It's here." Erin clutched her head, the whispers clawing inside her skull again. "You never left. You'll never leave." The beads scattered across the floor began to rattle, vibrating toward each other. Slowly, they reassembled into the shape of a circle, just like the bone ring at the hollow ground. Her mother stomped down hard, trying to break the pattern, but the beads only rolled back into place. Erin gasped, realization striking like ice. "They're making another pit. Here." The circle pulsed with a faint glow, and from within it came the first rumble of something trying to rise. The floor trembled beneath the bed, dust spilling from the ceiling as the bead circle pulsed brighter. The soil-like boards inside it softened, sagging inward like wet paper. Her mother dragged Erin to her feet. "We can't stay. Out, now!" They stumbled into the hallway as the house groaned. From behind them came the splintering crack of wood tearing apart. Erin glanced back and saw the circle yawning wider, swallowing the bed frame as though the ground itself had opened a throat. The whispers rushed up with it, a torrent of stolen voices. "You belong to us. You never left the hollow. Step inside and be whole." Her mother shoved her toward the stairs. "Don't listen!" But as Erin stumbled down, her marked ankle buckled. She crashed hard onto the steps, the pain radiating white-hot. Her vision blurred, and in that haze she saw shapes moving through the walls, faces pressing outward from the plaster, mouths open in silent screams. Her mother hauled her upright, half dragging her into the living room. But the rosary beads had already scattered there too, rolling across the floor in unnatural patterns. Circles upon circles, glowing faintly, linking together until the whole room seemed to pulse with breath. Aaron's chest seized. It's not just the woods, it's the house. They're turning it into hollow ground. The air thickened, damp and cold. Windows rattled. Every door slammed shut at once, locks snapping into place though no hands touched them. Her mother's face was pale, determined. She thrust the flashlight back into Aaron's hands. If this is their nest now, we end it here. No running. Aaron swallowed, clutching the dead beam. And if it doesn't work? Then at least we won't go quietly. The circles on the floor flared brighter. Cracks split through the boards, and pale hands clawed upward, pulling at the edges. The hollow ones were coming through. Hands erupted through the boards, pale and grasping, dozens of them clawing upward. Fingers stretched, knuckles cracking, nails scraping the wood as though hungering for the air above. Aaron aimed the flashlight at the nearest circle and flicked the switch. Nothing. The beam was dead. Her mother's jaw clenched. Then we burn it. She grabbed the matches from the satchel, struck one, and dropped it onto the floor. The flame sputtered, but instead of catching, the boards hissed wetly, extinguishing it in a puff of smoke that stank of rot. The whispers surged, triumphant. Aaron's pulse thundered. They don't burn. They feed. The hands pulled harder, widening the cracks until full arms stretched into the room. Their skin sagged loosely over bones, faces pushing up behind them like wax masks trying to form. Her mother shoved the rosary into Aaron's grip again, though its chain was broken, beads scattered. Hold it anyway. It's not the chain, it's the faith. Aaron clenched the remnants, focusing until her palm burned. A faint heat stirred, small but real. The nearest hand recoiled, shrieking as though scorched. Her mother's eyes widened. Again! Harder! Aaron squeezed tighter, praying to nothing and everything at once. The broken beads glowed faintly, the heat building until the air shimmered. She thrust her hand forward, and a ripple of light burst outward. The nearest circle shattered, collapsing into smoke. The figures clawing their way through dissolved, leaving only charred cracks in the boards. But the victory was fleeting. More circles pulsed to life, dozens spreading across the living room, each one birthing new arms, new faces, new mouths. Her mother screamed over the din. There are too many! Aaron's body shook, the light in her palm flickering, the gray in her veins straining against it. Then we ended at the source. She staggered toward the largest circle, the one glowing brightest at the center of the room. The wood split wide, opening into a dark pit. Voices howled from within, so loud they made the windows shiver. Aaron raised the rosary fragments above her head, every ounce of her will pouring into them. Then take me. The room froze. Every clawing hand stilled, every whisper cut off. Even the boards seemed to hold their breath. Aaron stood trembling at the pit's edge, the broken rosary blazing faintly in her palm. Her voice rang hollow in the silence. If you want me, if you've always wanted me, then take me. But leave her. Her mother's cry split the quiet. No! Don't you dare! She lunged forward, trying to pull Aaron back, but the floor itself rose against her, boards swelling, nails twisting, forcing her away. The pit responded with a single, guttural laugh that shook the walls. Hands withdrew, faces melted back into the floor, leaving only the central void yawning wider. From its depths, the tall figure rose again. It was larger than before, its limbs stretched impossibly long, its body crawling upward like smoke given shape. Its face rippled until it wore Aaron's own features, smiling with her mouth. You've already hollowed yourself, it said in her voice. Aaron's grip on the rosary tightened. The heat scorched her skin, but she refused to let go. If I'm already yours, then prove it. The figure leaned closer, jaw splitting, void gaping. A wind rushed from the pit, pulling at Aaron's hair, her clothes, her very breath. The house groaned, windows cracking under the pressure. Her mother screamed, struggling against the warped boards. Aaron, fight it! Don't give them the last piece of you! But Aaron's thoughts spun, torn between terror and grim resolve. The gray in her veins pulsed in time with the pit, each throb stronger, hungrier. The figure whispered inside her head now, intimate and soft. One step. One breath. One fall, and it ends. The rosary burned hotter. Erin raised it high, trembling. If she let herself fall, maybe it would drag the light with her, maybe enough to poison the pit forever. Her mother's voice cracked with desperation. Don't choose death to fight death. Choose life. Stay with me. Erin swayed on the edge, the abyss pulling, the rosary blazing, her veins screaming with gray fire. She had only seconds to decide. The pull of the pit was immense, like gravity itself had turned against her. Erin's toes slipped on the cracking boards, the abyss whispering her name in 1,000 stolen voices. Her mother's scream broke through the roar. Don't give them choice. That's what they want, you to step in willingly. The words hit her like cold water. She realized with sudden clarity, every whisper, every knock, every stolen voice had been pushing her toward this one act of surrender. Not to be dragged, not to be stolen, to choose it. Erin gritted her teeth, clutching the rosary until the chain cut her palm. No, she hissed. The tall figure's smile faltered, its stolen face twitching. Say yes. One yes, and the hunger ends. Erin lifted the burning rosary high, the heat so fierce she felt her skin blister. You need me to walk in. That means you're not as endless as you claim. You're afraid. The figure convulsed, its masked faces rippling violently. The chorus of voices screamed in unison, a sound like metal tearing. Her mother broke free of the warped boards and grabbed Erin's arm, dragging her back from the edge. Then fight them here. Fight them on your ground. The pit roared, the house trembling around it. Walls cracked, glass shattered, and from the circle erupted dozens of pale figures, swarming like insects from a hive. Their mouths gaped wide, empty and hungering. Erin raised the rosary with both hands. The light flared brighter than before, a white fire that licked the edges of the room. The figures staggered, shrieking as the glow burned through their faceless forms. But the tall one pressed forward undeterred. It reached out, clawed fingers stretching, and for the first time Erin saw its true face, smooth, eyeless, blank as stretched wax. No stolen mask, no illusion. Only nothing. It whispered with a voice like hollow wind, You are me already. Erin screamed, driving the rosary's light straight into its chest. The light struck the faceless chest, searing into it like molten iron. The tall figure convulsed, its elongated body arching backward as a scream ripped from it. Not layered voices this time, but a single, guttural wail that shook the walls. The pale swarm recoiled, stumbling as though tethered to the tall one's agony. Some collapsed outright, dissolving into black smoke that hissed against the floorboards. Erin pushed harder, the rosary burning her palms bloody. You don't get me! She cried, forcing every ounce of will into the glow. The creature staggered, its blank face blistering, bubbling like wax too close to fire. For the first time, cracks spread across its form, light bleeding from within. Her mother shouted over the deafening roar. It's working! Don't stop! But the tall one wasn't retreating. Instead, it lunged, arms outstretched, desperate to drag Erin into the pit with it. The void at its center gaped wide, sucking the air from the room. Erin's feet skidded across the boards, her body dragged forward despite her grip on her mother's arm. The pull of the void tore at her hair, her skin, her very breath. Her mother anchored herself against the splintering support beam, screaming, Hold on! Don't let it take you! Erin screamed back, voice raw. If I go, I'm dragging it with me. She slammed the rosary harder against the creature's chest. The silver beads cracked, shattering in her fist, each piece flaring like white-hot embers that burrowed deep into the figure's body. The scream it unleashed was unbearable, a sound of emptiness tearing itself apart. Its limbs thrashed wildly, smashing through walls, collapsing furniture. The pit beneath it convulsed, widening, swallowing chunks of the house as the floor buckled. Her mother shrieked, Erin, get back! But Erin couldn't move. The light anchored her to the monster, binding them together. She felt her veins ignite, the gray tendrils boiling away under the rosary's fire. One final crack split the creature's body. From the wound poured not blood but black smoke, thousands of faces screaming as they were ripped free. The tall one staggered, teetering at the pit's edge. And then it fell. The creature plunged into the pit, its scream trailing into the abyss until it was swallowed by silence. The black smoke of stolen faces twisted above the void, writhing, shrieking in 1,000 voices before dissolving like ash on the wind. The pit convulsed, collapsing inward. The floorboards snapped together with violent force, sealing shut as though it had never been. Dust rained from the rafters, the air choked with the smell of burnt earth and rot. Erin collapsed onto her knees, the shattered rosary pieces spilling from her hands. Her palms were raw, blistered, smeared with blood, but the gray that had once crept through her veins was gone. She was her own again. Her mother stumbled to her side, pulling her into a fierce embrace. Both of them shook with silent sobs, clinging as if the other might vanish if they let go. For the first time, the house was silent. No laughter in the walls, no knocks at the door, no whispers curling through the floorboards. Just silence. They sat together in the wreckage, too drained to move. Hours might have passed, or only minutes, they couldn't tell. At last, her mother spoke, her voice trembling. "Do you think it's over?" Erin stared at the sealed boards where the pit had been. The silence felt heavy, unnatural. "I think we ended something. But I don't know if it was everything." Her mother shivered, tightening her hold. "Then maybe we leave this place behind. Tonight. Don't look back." Erin wanted to agree. To run. To vanish into a life where the hollow ones were just a nightmare. But as she looked around the ruined house, she couldn't ignore the feeling gnawing at her chest. The fight wasn't finished. Not truly. The rosary fragments still glowed faintly on the floor, as though alive, as though waiting. And in the silence, Erin thought, just for a moment, that she heard it again. A soft, patient knock. 1, 2, 3. The knocks echoed through the ruined house, though the doors were splintered and the windows blown wide. Erin and her mother froze, clutching each other, both staring at the empty entryway. The sound came again, boom, 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 louder this time, shaking dust from the ceiling. But it wasn't from the door. It came from beneath the floor, deep in the boards that had only just sealed shut. Her mother whispered, "No, it can't still be alive." The rosary fragments rattled on the ground, vibrating toward one another as if pulled by unseen strings. They clicked together, reforming links, but the chain was twisted now, the beads blackened, the silver warped. Erin's pulse quickened. "It's not gone. We didn't kill it, we just pushed it deeper." The floor bulged, boards bending upward, nails screeching as they were forced from the wood. From the cracks, a thin black liquid seeped out, spreading across the room like veins. Her mother scrambled back. "We can't fight it again, Erin. Not like this." Erin scooped up the warped rosary. The moment her skin touched it, the beads pulsed with cold light, not white but dim gray, flickering as though feeding on her heartbeat. A voice seeped into her thoughts, low and mocking. "We're part of you now. You burned us, but you let us in." She staggered, pressing her hands to her head. "No. I beat you. I burned you out." The voice laughed, echoing through the walls. "There's no burning out what was always hollow." The black veins spread faster, climbing the walls, dripping from the ceiling. The whole house seemed to rot before their eyes. Her mother gripped her shoulders, frantic. "We have to go. Now." Erin hesitated, clutching the warped rosary, her chest burning with dread. She knew the truth already. Leaving wouldn't save them. The hollow ground was no longer outside. It was here. And it wanted more. The house groaned as if it were breathing, every wall flexing inward with a slow, rhythmic pulse. The black veins spread across the plaster, branching outward like a map, and where they touched, faces pressed through, waxen and eyeless, mouths opening and closing in silent screams. Erin's mother dragged her toward the door, but when she flung it open, the night outside was wrong. The street was gone. No houses, no lampposts, only endless trees, their branches swaying though no wind stirred. "We're still in it," Erin whispered, her stomach sinking. "The hollow pulled us under." Her mother shook her head, refusing to accept it. "No. No, we beat it. We burned it." The floorboards buckled violently. Hands clawed through again, dozens of them, some grasping at the furniture, others reaching for Erin's ankles. She stomped down on one, but her boots sank into the wrist like rotted wood. The hand dissolved into smoke, only for another to replace it. The warped rosary in her grip throbbed, its glow spreading faintly up her arm. This time it didn't burn, it numbed, chilling her veins. Her fingers tightened involuntarily, as if the beads were fusing into her skin. Her mother saw it and recoiled. "Erin, drop it!" "I can't!" Erin gasped, yanking at her fist. The chain had already embedded into her palm, silver links biting into flesh. "It won't let go!" The whisper surged, curling into her thoughts. "You've chosen. You're not fighting us, you're carrying us." The faces on the walls began to smile, their mouths stretching impossibly wide. The house trembled, beams cracking, dust falling like rain. Her mother gripped her shoulders, tears streaking down her face. "Then we finish it now. Burn everything, house, hollow, all of it. If we go with it, so be it." Erin's chest clenched. The numbness spread up her arm, dulling her heartbeat. She wasn't sure if she had enough left to resist. The walls split, and the tall figure began to rise again, its blank head pushing through the ceiling, arms stretching into every corner of the room. The hollow ones hadn't died. They had grown. The ceiling tore open as the tall figure unfolded itself into the house, its limbs stretching along the beams like roots breaking through soil. Its faceless head turned toward Erin, and though it had no eyes, she felt its gaze burning into her. The rosary chain tightened around her palm until blood trickled between her fingers. Its cold glow pulsed in time with the figure's movements. Her mother grabbed a shattered chair leg, brandishing it like a weapon. "Stay away from her!" The figure's jaw split, not with sound but with silence, an absence so heavy it swallowed every creak, every breath, every heartbeat. The world narrowed to that emptiness. Erin staggered, clutching her chest. She could feel her thoughts being pulled, threads unraveling, memories slipping through her fingers. Childhood laughter, her father's face, her mother's embrace, all fading. The voice inside purred. "We're not taking from you. We're making room. More room for us." Her mother's cry snapped her back. She swung the chair leg at one of the hands reaching through the floor. It shattered on impact, splinters flying, but the hand recoiled, smoke hissing from the wound. "Erin!" she screamed. "If it's using you, then use it back!" Erin looked at the rosary, at the chain buried in her flesh. The glow pulsed, hungry, eager. Maybe she couldn't drop it. Maybe she wasn't supposed to. She lifted her fist, and the glow spread, spilling into her veins like liquid fire. The numbness turned sharp, searing, burning through her arm and into her chest. The figure shrieked, not silence this time, but a sound that split the walls. Its body convulsed, limbs jerking violently as though the connection had backfired. The voices in her head wailed. "Stop! You'll tear us apart!" Erin screamed with them, forcing the light outward. It burst through her skin, veins blazing white, flooding the room with fire. The faces on the walls melted. The hands withdrew, shrieking as they dissolved into ash. The tall figure reeled, its body splitting with cracks of light. Her mother shielded her face, shouting over the roar. "Don't stop now! Finish it!" Erin's whole body burned as the light poured from her veins, searing every corner of the house. The tall figure writhed against it, its elongated limbs flailing, smashing through the walls and windows. Each strike rattled the structure, but instead of breaking free, it only weakened further, splintering under the radiance spilling out of her. The warped rosary fused tighter into her palm, its beads glowing like molten stars. She screamed, not from fear but from the sheer force of it, as though her body was too small to contain what surged through her. The figure's faceless head cracked, splitting down the middle. From the fissure poured a storm of voices, screaming, pleading, howling for release. They weren't just strangers, they were familiar: Jacob, her father, neighbors, children whose names she didn't know. Souls the hollow had swallowed. Her mother fell to her knees, tears streaming as she pressed her hands together. "Let them go, Aaron! Don't let it keep them!" Aaron staggered forward, every step dragging her closer to the towering thing. Its body sagged now, melting like wax in the light, but its blank face fixed on her, unyielding. The voices in her head shifted from screams to pleading whispers. "If we die, you die with us. If you burn us out, you burn yourself out too." Her heart thundered. The light threatened to consume her completely. Maybe they were right. Maybe this was the end. But then she saw her mother's face through the blaze, raw, terrified, unbroken. And she remembered her father's last words, twisted by the hollow but true beneath. "I tried to save you once. You can finish it." Aaron raised her blazing fist, rosary embedded, and drove it straight into the creature's splitting face. The world detonated in white fire. Walls collapsed outward. The pit beneath the house roared open, sucking everything, the smoke, the faces, the shadows, down into its throat. The tall figure convulsed, shrieking with the sound of every stolen voice at once, before it fractured into ash and vanished. The light consumed everything. Then there was silence. Aaron woke to dust choking her lungs. The house was gone, splintered beams, shattered glass, and blackened earth where the foundation had been. The air was thick with smoke, but the silence was pure. No whispers, no laughter, just silence. She pushed herself upright, her body weak and trembling. The rosary was gone. Only a scar remained in her palm, raw and red, the shape of the beads etched permanently into her skin. "Mom?" Her voice cracked. A figure emerged from the rubble, coughing, clothes torn and face streaked with ash. Her mother stumbled forward and dropped beside her, pulling her into a fierce embrace. They clung to each other in the ruin, sobbing, too drained for words. When they finally pulled apart, her mother whispered, "You did it!" Aaron looked at the hollowed ground beneath them. The pit was sealed again, not with wood or soil but with stone, smooth and unbroken, as though the earth itself had chosen to bury what had tried to rise. But she couldn't shake the unease gnawing at her. She flexed her scarred palm, the burn of it still fresh. "I don't know if it's over." Her mother's eyes softened with weary grief. "Maybe it never will be. Maybe all we can do is live through it." They left the ruins at dawn, walking barefoot down Ashwood Lane. The neighborhood was silent, its houses hollow shells, but no figures lingered in the yards. No curtains twitched with blurred faces. When they reached the edge of town, Aaron turned for one last look. Brookhaven lay still, abandoned, the woods crouched beyond it like a waiting beast. She whispered a promise under her breath. "I won't come back." Her mother squeezed her hand. "Neither will I." They walked on, the rising sun painting the road gold, each step taking them farther from the town that had swallowed too many lives. But as they crossed the county line, Aaron thought she heard it, just faintly, carried on the wind. A knock. 1, 2, 3. Aaron stopped in her tracks. The road stretched empty ahead, sunlight spilling over cracked asphalt, but the sound echoed unmistakably. 3 knocks, steady, patient, as if someone waited just behind her. Her mother froze too, her hand tightening around Aaron's. "Don't turn around," she whispered. Aaron's throat tightened. The urge to look was overwhelming, as though the knocks themselves reached into her muscles, tugging at her neck. But she shut her eyes, forcing her legs to move. 1 step. Then another. The knocks followed, softer now, tapping faintly in her scarred palm. Her mother's voice broke. "It's not gone, is it?" Aaron shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "No. But it's weaker. I can feel it." They walked until the trees thinned, until the first signs of another town appeared in the distance. Street lights, rooftops, the hum of a world that hadn't yet been hollowed out. For the first time, Aaron allowed herself to breathe. The sunlight warmed her skin, real and solid, pushing the chill of the hollow back into her shadow. Her mother whispered, "Do you think it'll find us again?" Erin flexed her scarred hand, the faint pulse of the rosary still echoing under her skin. Maybe. But next time, it won't be waiting in silence. It'll know I can burn it. Her mother studied her, pride and fear mingling in her eyes. Then whatever comes, we face it together. Erin nodded. The hollow ones were not gone. They might never be gone. But she was no longer their prey. She was their scar. And as she walked into the rising day, the sound of the knocks faded, distant, resentful, beaten back into the dark. For now,